the patents to some of the genetically modified crops that are owned by this large corporation. He invented them, and he's very believable, and told me that here in Latin America that the idea of raising embryonic and then destroying them at 14 days, human-animal embryos, is something they were past a long time ago. These things are full maturity, and they have specific reasons behind why they're making them. But anyway, the bottom line is, all of this research was so interesting, to start out studying modern biotech, especially transgenics, and then to find this ancient history about what the gods had done, and then later, if you include alien abduction phenomenon, perhaps nonstop through history, this record of ultra-terrestrials, unknown intelligences, cross-blending species, and at least in some records, for the purposes of incarnating themselves. And Steve, that brings up this very spooky question then. Just who or what is it that's being incarnated or housed in these bodies? Are these fallen angels? Are these demons? And why? Are these aliens? Are these Heiser's lions? I mean, I think people have to consider, regardless of worldview, that from Jacques Vallée to Dr. John Mack to Dr. John Quayle to Dr. Ida E. Thomas, that the evidentiary records suggest that this activity is equivalent to biblical demonology. That we're talking about the same beings as are identified in the Bible as demons.
Well, right, and I think that's the situation, because the fascinating thing, Tom, is people believe that we're going to ultimately be saved from ourselves by our creators, panspermia, whether we're intergalactic, just a garbage dump. The thing is that the central theme through all of history in all the different cultures I've studied, which are thousands, doing my research, you cannot get away from it. And now with the absolute, and I want to ask you real quickly, you've been carrying on Raiders News Update, the whole morphing, if you will, of the Catholic Church's position on aliens. And I think you should touch on that briefly, because where in times past they would have taken the position that these are demons, now there's a big transform taking place where they may be good, they may be coming to help us, and they may not need salvation. Touch on that, if you would.
All right, I will. Well, first of all, let's say that there's no doubt that dark spirits could be producing this UFO phenomenon, regardless of what the Vatican or anybody else has to say, and the alien phenomenon, for their own reasons. These religious institutions tend to look at things, well, I do too, I guess, and you do too, I guess, but in particular, they are defenders of the faith, and they look at this stuff from a theological perspective. And so what I would say to these people that are listening to this show that might even be involved in this angle, the theology of transmogrification deals with the fact that spirits can take form, and it indicates that there is an ability by demons to be able to manipulate energy, matter. The whole German term poltergeist, these unexplained noises. You watch these television shows right now where they're going into these haunted locations, and on a few occasions they're picking up film, something being slung across the room or whatever. So first of all, theologically, we know that demons can actually cause audible vibrations, if you will. They have the ability to make physical contact with tangible material, and that being true, demons might be the ones that's producing this phenomenon known as unidentified flying objects or whatever, and doing this by manipulating energy. So these religious leaders need to be careful when they start pointing to any of this as being evidence that there is this benevolent unknown that's making contact. Secondly, there are theologians who disagree with this premise from the Vatican and others, or from at least some of the talking heads from the Vaticans, that UFOs might be used to actually deceive mankind. First of all, concerning the argument of human origins, to draw us away from our faith. They say that this won't be a challenge to our faith, but Steve, there's this ageless question about where did we come from? And like you kind of hinted at a minute ago, if people believe that these UFO-nauts are just advanced extraterrestrials that have been scurrying around in spaceships for eons, and that these same beings visited the Earth in ancient days, and they tinkered with hominid DNA, this is where part of this is going, this whole galactic Jesus seed panspermia idea, that we were either seeded by the, maybe we can get into that Jesus seed thing in a moment, but that we were either seeded by life from elsewhere, or these things came down. They took early primates, they tinkered with their DNA, they upgraded them according to Zachariah Sitchin and others, and created out of those early life forms a more sophisticated life form, Homo sapiens sapiens. If that's the case, that would obliterate, in my opinion, the Judeo-Christian doctrine concerning the age of the earth and also biblical creation. In other words, people would be led to believe that we are nothing more than an alien zoology program or a dump station or whatever it was you said a moment ago.
Right.
Thirdly, there are also good scholars who believe that this could be part of an end times delusion, a prophetic delusion, and that we're walking into it right now with our eyes wide closed. Because according to the Bible, the end times are going to be accompanied by fearful sights and great signs from heaven. People's hearts failing them for fear, for seeing those things that are coming upon the earth. The book of 2 Thessalonians even says that when the Antichrist is revealed, he's going to be accompanied by lying wonders. And some people believe that these verses are talking about UFOs and the whole related phenomenon being used to introduce the man of sin during the Great Tribulation. I mean, wouldn't the world react in amazement and shock and paralysis, Steve, to the sudden arrival of an intergalactic wise man who is claiming to be the Messiah? And Steve, this deception, I think, has already begun. It's playing out right now, and it's partly in this bid to warm up the world's religious communities to the idea that these beings will be or are our space brothers. And furthermore, have you noted they're saying they may be closer to God than we are, higher to God, closer to God than we are, and some of that commentary also coming from the Vatican lately.
Yep.
You might know that Berkeley just finished a broad survey of religious people, representing 7 of the most popular faiths, including Roman Catholicism as well as evangelical Christianity. And here's the shocker, Steve, and you might already be aware of this. It only came out about 5 days ago, though. Something more than 80% of the people, and this was a fairly broad, in the thousands, or at least more than 1,500, something like that, persons, handpicked, but more than 80% of them, religious people, believe that not only will the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence not challenge their faith in God, but they say they actually anticipate the discovery eagerly. Can't wait, if you will, to get hooked up with ET. And one of the things I noticed about this Berkeley press release that stood out to me was part of the wording of it. And anybody can go and just look this up at Google and read it for yourself. But notice this wording in their press release that to me is so subliminal, where they were asking if ETI would destroy our religious beliefs, would confirmation of the existence of an extraterrestrial intelligent civilization so rock the adherents to Earth's religious traditions that their belief systems would confront a crisis, if not collapse altogether. And here was the interesting thing, and I'm quoting this from their press release. Listen to this. Are religious people so narrow-minded, so earth-centric, and so anthropocentric that they would be shocked to realize that we share our universe with other beings who are our equals, if not superiors, end quote. What got me about that is this is supposed to be an unbiased religious survey, but to use this kind of language, are religious people so narrow-minded that they would be shocked? Right away, I think would skew some of the answers to this, because people don't want to say that they're narrow-minded, obviously. And the bottom line, Steve, is it appears that there is an intentional effort right now on the part of academia, on the part of religious quarters, to warm us up for the inevitable official disclosure. This Berkeley report was just published last week. It went on to say this. Can I quote this?
Absolutely.
Said, and now, by the way, this was conducted by one of the religious, a priest, one of the religious figures at the Berkeley Institute. Here's what he concluded. Quote, instead of thrusting Christian